Welcome everyone to the Tualatin City Council November 23rd General Council meeting, if you will, our regular council meeting. We have actually we have a new thing, sorry. So I'm gonna have Councilor Brooks again lead us in a moment of silence for those who have lost their lives to COVID-19 in the last week. As you all know, the numbers are rising and we've seen a deaths increase tragically. And I'm going to turn it over to Bridget because in work session, we had quite a discussion about the impact Thanksgiving can have on those totals and increasing rates of infection and death. So to Bridget.
This week of Thanksgiving, we will, as we do, count our blessings. I want to thank all of you who reached out with your sympathy about my personal loss with calls, cards, flowers, and prayers. It's very meaningful to me, and I'm very deeply touched. As we reach a national death toll of over 250,000 deaths nationally and more than 826 lives lost here in Oregon today, we understand and acknowledge many of us are experiencing grief and hardship. We think of our health care workers and all those in hospitals, including patients there for other needs, like my stepfather, as cross-infection and capacity concerns rise in hospitals. We are mindful of families and business owners and leaders who worry about making it through. Our council invites all here to join in the spirit of togetherness and support. We will begin our meeting with a moment of silence for all those that we have lost and those who are suffering as a result of COVID-19. Thank you.
Thanks, Bridget. All right, so tonight we have one announcement. We have holiday events announcement. Is that Julie?
That is. Hi there. Good evening, Mayor Bubenick and members of the council. I have not spoken with all of you for quite some time, so it's my honor to be here and to share my screen and talk to you about some winter and holiday events that we have coming up. So let me get that queued up here. All right. So I have the pleasure of announcing some upcoming events that we have. And some of you may know that the city of Tualatin, along with the cities of Tigard, Sherwood, King City, and Durham, are group recipients of the Washington County Mental Health and Community Psyche Grant. So together, these 5 cities have been working on creating programs under the umbrella of what we're calling the Resiliency Project. And the goal of this project is to acknowledge and to address the adversity that our communities have faced because of the COVID-19 pandemic. We've had to cancel a lot of programs, a lot of events, and knowing that we have to do this to, be physically distanced to keep each other safe, we also understand the importance of staying connected as a community and focusing on our mental and physical and social health. So that is the goal of this grant, and that's what the Parks and Rec team have done to create some new holiday events and activities that I'm here to talk to you about tonight. So we have 4 big events that are happening in November and December. And the first one that we're very, very excited about is the Holiday Lights Parade. So this is basically, it's a parade, but it's a parade that people will watch from their homes. We're bringing the parade to 3 different areas of our city. Anyone in the city of Tualatin is welcome to go onto our website and sign up to be in the parade, and they will parade in their vehicles and will get a free starter kit with an AC adapter and some LED lights. So we're encouraging anybody in the city to sign up to drive their car around in our parade, light it up, and bring some joy to their neighbors. Those will be the first 3 Saturdays of December. One starting at Tualatin Park, one starting at IBAC Park, and then the last one starting at the Tualatin Police Department. So we're very excited about that one. The second one that we have going on was an idea that came out of the Pole Center, and that is Letters from Wintertime Characters. So this one is an opportunity, again, for people to go onto our website and sign up to have their children get a handwritten delivered letter sent to them that's written from Santa or Mrs. Claus or Frosty or any sort of holiday or wintertime character of their choosing. As of this afternoon, we had over 160 requests for letters. So we're very excited about that. And we've got a great crew of volunteers who are going to be writing those letters from their home. They're picking up supplies from the library, writing the letters, and then the Poll Center staff will be sending those out. So a lot of kids will be very excited to get some very personal holiday mail. The third project is the Tualatin Gratitude Wall. That's happening right now. You can go on to the Parks and Rec section of the city's website and just have a moment to reflect and think about things that you are grateful for. As Councilor Brooks had mentioned just previous to this, we know that we do have so much to be grateful for. We have so much to be thankful for. And by having this kind of reflection on gratitude, it really helps your own personal mental well-being and then sharing that with the community. So we're very excited about that. And then finally, in December, the first 3 Wednesdays in December, we will be doing a outdoor donut in the park day. So we'll be doing one in Equality Park, one in IBAC Park, and one in Community Park. Of course, following all of the COVID restrictions and socially distancing and mask wearing. But we're encouraging people to get out, go for a walk in their local park, and then stop by and get free donuts, cocoa, chai from Pip's Original Donuts. We'll also be distributing out some holiday craft kits for kids. So those are the 4 things that are happening in November and December. The grant process or the grant time period goes through March. We have a lot of other ideas and activities up our sleeve, which I'm happy to share with you as we progress through the rest of the winter. So really the goal is just to give people something fun to look forward to, a way to connect with people in our community safely, and just share with each other. So more information, of course, is on our website, tualatinoregon.gov/recreation. And you are always welcome to contact me with questions. Thank you.
Thanks, Julie. Questions for Julie? It's weird not seeing you in front of the dais, all either dressed up or all peppy, walking musical instruments. Usual shtick you do. Any questions for Julie?
I have a question. Oh, Julie, I just wondered how many people have contacted you about the holiday lights parade. It's so exciting.
So the last time I checked, I believe we were at about 65 total people have signed up so far.
That's great.
Yeah. We're hoping this will become a new holiday tradition for Tualatin. And I can see it just kind of growing as we go along over the years.
All right. Any other questions for Julie? Councilor Brooks.
I just want to thank you personally for all your work on the Psyche grant. That I know that work is, especially coordinating with other cities in our area, it's not easy. You have a full schedule on top of it, and you guys were able to just pick up on this project and run with it. And I'm so impressed with the website. I've signed up for the holiday parade. It's very easy to do. You just have to, it auto fills your name and number right in there. And my car's red, so I feel like it's already festive. So there we go. The other thing that I'm excited about doing is writing the letters to the kids and to Wintertime Characters. I'm hoping that Councilor Reyes will include her cat in the perfect holiday cat photo contest. I think that we already have had a preview of the fabulous cat, and so it needs to happen. And my question, which is sort of an unrelated question, but I feel bad, I couldn't remember the woman's name who did the presentation. I know it's a short turnaround time, that came to the Tualatin Arts Advisory Committee last week and presented, was it on the project for Tualatin Valley Creates, right?
Yes. I'm looking up her name right now. I think her name was Lisa. And yes, so Lisa, and I don't have her, let's see. Lisa Seward from Tualatin Valley Creates came to our arts advisory meeting to talk about their artist incubator project. So what they're actually trying to do is help artists become better at running their own personal business. And so it's a training, it's an incubator program for artists. And that deadline has been extended for that program. And anyone who is interested can apply by December 1st. It's on the Tualatin Valley Creates website, which is tvcreates.org.
And I believe too that they have a big equity lens. So if you are an artist who is from different communities, equity focused information and leadership and arts and working together with others is what they're looking for. I know it's a short turnaround, but it doesn't look like too hard of a process for doing an application. I'm super excited. And the other thing too is, can you tell us a little bit more, just a little preview of the mural?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm happy to. So another component of the Washington County Community Psyche Grant is to do a community public art installation. So I've been working with the Arts Advisory Committee. We actually, at our last meeting, narrowed down a group of Portland metro area muralists who we will be inviting to submit proposals for a mural in Tualatin. And so that process is going, and we're looking at February and March as the actual implementation of that project, including the painting of a mural, but also because it's the Community Psyche Grant, there will be a very significant community engagement component of that project as well. So there'll be a lot more fun things to come. We're going to try and have a good selection of activities every month through March.
Thank you again. Everybody can see just with all the program variety and just from that single grant, how much extra work Julie's taken on behalf of the psyche of our community. And I really appreciate it. Thanks.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Julie? All right. Thanks, Julie.
Thank you.
Yeah, good seeing you.
Likewise.
Next up is public comment. Public comment is an opportunity for anyone to address the City Council regarding an item that is not on tonight's agenda. Please keep your comments to about 3 minutes. If there's anyone in this meeting who would like to address the council, this would be the appropriate time. Is there anyone on site at the Poll Center, Bates?
There is no one on site at the Poll Center, Mayor.
How about virtually?
There's nobody who's notified me virtually.
All right. Wait a moment, because I just see there's not a lot of people at the meeting, it looks like, tonight. All right. All right. Moving on. We'll go to the consent agenda. The consent agenda are those items considered routine and will be adopted by one motion unless someone in the council would like one of them removed and heard separately later tonight. Tonight's consent agenda consists of only one item: consideration of approval of the City Council work session and regular meeting minutes of November 9th, 2020. Would any councilor like this removed from consent? All right.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as read.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to accept the consent agenda as read. I'll start going through the slides here. Councilor Reyes.
Yes.
Councilor Kellogg.
Aye.
Councilor Pratt.
Aye.
Councilor Brooks.
Aye.
Councilor Morrison.
Yes.
Council President Grimes.
Aye.
And the mayor votes yes also. All right. Moving on to general business. Item number 1, consideration of ordinance number 1448-20 relating to alarm systems, amending Tualatin Municipal Code Chapter 6-6 and creating new provisions.
All right. Good evening, Mayor, members of council, Bill Steele, Chief of Police, and we are here tonight to talk about our alarm permit program in the city of Tualatin. It's a program that's been around for about 30 years, but was recently in need of some attention. So that project landed on the plate of Jennifer Massey, who is here tonight, and she's going to be doing the bulk of the presentation. Maybe Jennifer, you can start to share your screen. I'll tell you, Jennifer wears a lot of different hats in the police department. She's managed as our social media, is our accreditation manager, handles our policy updates, and also manages the alarm permit program. So Jennifer, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Give me just a second here. Sorry. It's not wanting to cooperate. There we go. You guys see that? Can everybody see it?
Yep.
Okay, good. All right. Good evening, Mayor, members of the council, everyone. So we wanted to, like Chief Steele said, we wanted to propose some changes to the Tualatin Municipal Code having to do with alarm system regulations. I adopted this program 2 years ago, and it became rather clear to me that there were some things that needed to be updated about the program and the ordinance. And so just to go over a few things, our ordinance was established in 1989. It's only been modified one time, and that was in 2004. It's a pretty antiquated system that we're working off of. It's a database, actually an access database. It doesn't connect with CAD for seamless tracking. So we're not getting false alarm systems or false alarms tracked in real time. All of our correspondence is done by hand, like billing, late notices, any sort of correspondence we do, it's done by hand and snail mailed. But the three things that are that I'm wanting to focus on tonight is we don't have a late fee established. And so some of our accounts I was noticing as I went through this project were 4 and 5 years past due. And there was nothing, no incentive for these people to keep it current or pay. There's no fee for failing to obtain a permit in a timely manner. So some people just don't even bother. And there's no, coupled with that, there's no requirement for the alarm companies to provide us with a list of their alarm users in our city. And so there's potentially many households out there or businesses out there utilizing an alarm system that are not permitted with us, and we don't know unless they have a false alarm and we happen to catch it. So that's kind of what we're looking at here. As you can see by these statistics that you're looking at, we go to a lot of alarm calls every year, approximately 824 over the last year, and only 1% is related to an actual crime. 82% are in fact false alarms, and 17% were canceled on the way there. So they were false alarms in essence as well. So let me get to my next slide here. Whoa, what happened here? Sorry. There we go. So I went over some of these issues. One of the other issues is that we don't have the ability to ask for consent to do a protective sweep. And that's something that other agencies have. Washington County has it. And Chief, can you chime in here and talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, it has to do with, Oregon is covered with a statute called community caretaking, which allows police officers, if they respond to a situation like this, or situations where they're checking on the welfare of residents or trying to locate missing persons, it gives them the authority to enter a residence under the program of really trying to take care of the community. It's not really a criminal investigation. It's more of just that community caretaking aspect. And so that really kind of narrowed that down a little bit and had to do with, even though resident of a home might have a permit to have an alarm system and is requesting that the police respond, they might not necessarily give police consent to check the inside of their house if they do respond to alarm. So it's kind of best practice at this point in time to get consent from a homeowner with a burglar alarm system in advance before a police officer makes entry into a house to check the house if they do respond in a situation. So it's kind of best practice right now in law enforcement.
So what we're recommending tonight is that we make some amendments so that we can put the responsibility back on the alarm companies to provide us with a list of their alarm users within our city, to eliminate the requirement for a paper permit because that will cut down on costs for the city. We can track it through CAD anyway when we cross-reference the addresses, and to implement a fee for failing to apply for a permit within a timely manner and initiate a fee for not renewing on time, a late fee. And then obviously, as Chief said, to provide the option to do the protective sweep. The benefits would be that it's going to increase our alarm user compliance with the ordinance. It's going to make us comparable with other cities as far as fees are concerned, and reduce the costs associated with false alarms. It's going to increase the number of accounts that are kept up to date and current. And it also sets the stage for a potential transition to a better, more efficient system in our future. As I mentioned, right now, our system is pretty antiquated, and I'm hoping to eventually move to a system where we can give the end user a much more pleasant experience where they can just log in online and pay their fees and track their false alarms online, and that things are connected with CAD so that the false alarms are tracked in real time, and it's an automated system where a letter is automatically sent out to that person. So we are recommending an update to the ordinance, streamlining the program, creating more efficient use of our manpower, generating less costs to the city, a smaller margin of error through automation, and greater convenience for our end users. Does anybody have any questions?
Questions for Jennifer or the chief? You stop sharing, Jennifer, so we can.
Sure.
Thanks. Questions? Councilor Kellogg.
Thank you, Mayor. And thank you, Chief and Jennifer, for your presentation. I think this is certainly a needed improvement. One question I did have, and I don't have it right in front of me, but some portion of the ordinance prevents transferability of the permit between homeowners. And so I'm just a little concerned if I'm the person going to purchase a house and I sign a new contract with the alarm company. How does that information get from alarm company to city back to the user to let them know that they've got to re-up a permit?
So what we wanted to do, or what we're aiming to do with the language that we are proposing, is to put the onus back on the alarm companies to ensure that that alarm user, when they apply for or when they start up an alarm through that company, say it's ADT, they're starting up an alarm with ADT, we want ADT to provide them with a link or the exact path they need to go on in order to apply for the permit through the city. We want them to make sure that they are telling those customers, you have to apply for a permit through the city. There's a couple of alarm companies that I have dealt with that actually will require that person to provide an alarm permit number before they will finish connecting that alarm. And I think that needs to be, I think that needs to happen more often. And the only way that we can do that is to really put the pressure back onto those alarm companies.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I'm driving at, is I'd like the onus to be on them. And, if the resident doesn't get that information, that there's no penalty to them for, not going to review the Tualatin Municipal Code about alarm permits and then get dinged with a fine. So I'm sure that's the way it's going to be administered. I just want to make sure that is indeed the case.
Yes.
Thank you.
Other questions? Council President Grimes.
Thank you. This is a great project. Thank you, Jennifer, for taking this on. This obviously needed some serious updating. So
Yeah.
thank you for that. I have a question about the protective sweep option. And this is just a thought. I'm not necessarily making a recommendation one way or the other, but I'm just thinking, since there's already, as the chief mentioned, kind of a community, I can't remember exactly what he called it, but a community safety allowance for the police to come and kind of check out the area if an alarm goes off, or if you get a public safety call or something like that for a resident. Is that enough to make the changes you want to make without having to someone sign the protective sweep option? And the only reason I'm even thinking this out loud is in the current climate and with everything going on and people being so nervous and somewhat apprehensive about interactions with law enforcement and everything that's involved, and in minority communities especially, I just don't want to keep anybody from not signing up to get an alarm, or keep anybody from reporting any kind of property crime or any other kind of crime that might go on, just because that they would have a concern about signing off on a sweep option and what they think that could conceivably mean to their family and their family members in the home. And so I guess I'm just sort of openly asking that question. Could this go forward without that piece, or am I worrying about nothing and the protective sweep option won't be unsettling to certain families or certain parts of our community?
I'll talk to that because I think that's a valid concern. I definitely think that in this day and age, there's definitely reason to put some thought into that. I will say it is a great benefit to police officers that respond to a situation like that. So you're entering into a contract with an alarm company typically that says if your alarm goes off, number one, I'll back up. You're going to pay an alarm company X number of dollars a month for a service that says if this alarm goes off, they're going to notify the police and the police are going to respond. So when that alarm does go off and we do respond, if we find that there's a potential sign of forced entry into a home, or there's unlocked doors, windows, you name it, this gives the officer the ability to make that protective sweep into the house to make sure that everything is okay. If that is going a little bit beyond what a person might be comfortable with, they don't have to consent to that, and that just won't be an option that an officer pursues. The other piece to that is if they do give consent and an officer does make entry into the home to check on the occupant's welfare or any signs of a crime, if a crime is discovered, and that does occasionally happen, then there is a recourse that comes along with that. So this is protecting the officers in their ability to do their job when they do respond in those situations. So it is something that I would ask the council to consider as part of this ordinance. And it isn't that we would be unique in that manner. It is just based on case law, really the best practices for law enforcement agencies to pursue this in this type of approach.
And like Chief said, it is optional. It's you're not required to consent to it in order to be permitted.
Right. I understand that, and of course I want to make this as productive for the police department and law enforcement as possible. I'm just thinking from a user perspective who might not know all the legal ins and outs of what is you can allow and what you can disallow, and I was just trying to think of it from that perspective of someone who might like the added security and safety feeling of knowing that they have an alarm, but maybe not necessarily wanting to just make it an open book for a home search if they might have concerns.
Yeah, and honestly, that's the problem that we're trying to correct in some ways, because we don't have that mechanism in place now. That's a step we don't want our officers to take if the homeowner is not comfortable with that situation. They don't want police officers entering into their homes. That puts us kind of on a written notice that they're not consenting to that now, where that's not currently in place.
Okay, thank you.
So just a follow-on question to Nancy's. So say someone does not sign it, does not consent to it, alarm goes off and officers are dispatched and they're at the home. What do they do at that point?
If there is no consent that in the future, if there's no consent on file, giving the officers the ability to enter into the home, they will not enter into the home. Right now, it's kind of a training piece for our officers that we kind of, as we teach what current case law is, here's what the law might say, but here's kind of what the current case law is. You're best not to enter into a home unless there's obvious signs that somebody might be in distress. So this is just trying to provide an additional layer of clarification for the officers as well.
Okay, because that was my question. You just kind of mentioned it, that they show up at the home, they see a broken window or a door wide open, they still would not enter, or what would they do if there was no consent?
In the future, if there was no consent, they would not enter.
Even if they see something like that?
Yes.
Okay.
And I should preface that, unless there's additional signs that somebody might be in distress, if they actually see something in the window that would lead them to have to make that decision, as opposed to this is just going to be a protective sweep to make sure everything's okay. But yeah, if there was additional information, they would probably take that step and enter the home.
Councilor Reyes.
Thank you. I think some of the questions that Mayor Buvenik and Nancy had, they were just my questions as well. And I was just wondering all that. So currently, so I can be clear, if you get a call from an alarm system that goes off, you can or cannot go in there unless. Can you repeat that again so I can understand it?
So the law allows us to do that. Case law has determined that if there was criminal situations going on in that house, if an officer enters into a residence under what is called community caretaking, that criminal investigation might not go anywhere. But right now, there is nothing that legally prevents an officer from entering a home in a situation like that. We're trying to provide an extra layer of protection for not only the officers, but the homeowner as well. And this piece of the alarm permit process helps provide that clarification.
Thank you, clarifying that.
Councilor Brooks.
I just want to follow up on this as well, and I appreciate everyone's conversation around it, because especially, I mean, the case that I think of course, is Breonna Taylor and no-knock warrants. And I'm just curious if you would help us understand and differentiate between, I forget what you call it, the good neighbor, or that policy, and the no-knock warrants. What's similar, what's different? And
yeah, I definitely would like to talk about that, because I don't want to confuse a situation. So Breonna Taylor, on a different side of the country, that was a criminal search warrant that was being executed under a no-knock situation that had been authorized by a judge. In Oregon, no-knock warrants are not authorized anytime. So that is a completely different situation. That's a criminal investigation. This falls under that community caretaking aspect, where a person's home may or may not have been broken into, and the police respond to make sure that everything is okay. They're not conducting a per se criminal investigation. They're checking on the welfare of not only the people inside, but also protecting against potential theft of items. So it's really a different mindset when you responded. It's not necessarily, like I said, a criminal investigation with a warrant or anything like that. This is strictly in a different manner.
And I just had a follow up on this too. Do you anticipate creating something on the website to explain this, especially this particular piece, so it's very clear to people and have it be bilingual?
Sure, we can definitely provide more information. It will be part of the application process for the alarm process. We'll incorporate it as part of the renewal as well, so that if people have a change of heart and they didn't want to give consent where they've given consent in years past, they can definitely, go a different direction for sure.
Yeah, I just think it would be nice if people had an opportunity to research what the options mean before they check the box, so that they know what they're exactly doing and what, and some of the confusing pieces that people might be concerned about.
Yeah, and I just want to, provide an additional point of clarification. So it's not just for alarm systems when somebody's alarm is going off because their house might have been broken into. A lot of alarm systems have duress buttons on them as well. So police are responding to make sure that people are okay. They're not, in harm's way. And so it helps provide clarification on that as well.
Yeah, I just really appreciate that, especially with you the department often being the first responders with I always forget the words, but the heart.
AEDs.
What do you call it?
AED.
Yes, thank you.
Other questions for Chief or Jennifer? Councilor Pratt.
Oh, Councilor Reyes was first.
Okay, I can go. I definitely want our city to be safe. I want our police officers to take all the precautions, all the, I guess, everything, dot all the I's and cross all your T's, so we won't get in a situation that would bring a lot of media or attention to our city that's nice and wonderful. So I'm in favor of supporting anything that helps I support our police officers, and I really have a lot of, and trust me, I'm from LA, so my world was different when I was 14. But I tell you, I really want us to be careful and just have everything out there in the open, so we don't get in a case where things are misunderstood. I'm in favor of anything like that to protect our police officers that care for us here all the time. And the question that I had was, in case of, I don't know, I guess I'm thinking of a property that's rented, or I'm hoping that all that information is out there for them. But I mean, it's in case someone just moves here and you have to, they're renting a property, like a house, and maybe the previous owner has not said anything about these guidelines, and then something happens and you go in there. I don't know, I'm just really scared. So I hope that we are taking care of ourselves and our police officers in every way. And if this is going to help us do that, I'm in favor of it.
Those are situations that we are responding to now. So again, typically this would be handled through the person that is paying for the service for the alarm company. But there are times now where we will respond to a situation where somebody has moved into a home that has an existing alarm system that has not been, permitted through the city. Nobody knows really how to activate it, how to deactivate it. It goes off at odd hours. And so we're responding to those situations now and making contact with the residents. So this consent piece really won't impact those. We will continue to respond to situations where alarms are going off, and there's sometimes people need help deactivating them, because as you know, if you've been around one that goes off, they are quite loud and they cause a disruption in the neighborhood. So we will respond to those and do whatever we can to help safely, get those systems turned off. So it's systems that have been, purchased by certain people, or they've been systems that have been inherited by people by moving into a home as well.
Councilor Pratt.
Well, what I'm really seeing here is just the astounding number of false alarms and time the police must be spending on this. So how will these changes, you're probably going to have fees, especially if they have so many false alarms, but how do you see that these updates will help reduce that in any way?
So you are correct. It does take a lot of time for the police officers. So if you just average, say there's going to be 1 or 2 police officers responding on these situations, and just factoring in normal drive time and the time it takes to conduct just a basic check and then leave, you're looking at about a half an hour for 2 police officers. So, and it multiply that by 824 times a year. It's a lot of time. There are currently fees in place now. I think the first 2, Jennifer, correct me if I'm wrong, the first 2 false alarms, there's no charge, but then it is an escalator from there that it goes up. The more times that police respond on false alarms, that does get more expensive for the owner of the alarm system.
Correct.
Any other questions for Chief or Jennifer? Council Morrison.
Yeah, just real quick, Jennifer, we had this conversation a year ago. I'm really pleased that you got your software updated, which I understand happened to simplify your life in terms of processing the application fee. And then I'm really happy to see you and the chief put the work in to revise this and bring us up kind of to the 21st century with respect to how we deal with all this, because I know from experience, there were some loopholes in there, and there were some issues that I think get covered under this ordinance, and makes it, I think, a lot easier for everyone involved. And I'll just comment really quick, because I had this conversation with Sherilyn last week. On the one hand, I'm concerned about the ability for a police officer to enter the premise. But it is completely voluntary, and it's just like I've been pushing several state legislatures to authorize the COVID-19 response that's on your iPhone, and everybody has it, but you have to opt in. And the reason we're not doing it right now is because of privacy concerns, but that's putting everybody else at risk who has no issue with privacy. And I'm also aware of some horror stories where police responded to an alarm, did not enter the premise, and it turned out that someone actually was in there unbeknownst to the homeowner. And that was one of them was really a tragedy. The lady ended up getting beat up pretty bad because of it. And so this helps alleviate, it takes care of that issue and allows officers to enter the premise. And again, entirely voluntary. They can opt out if they don't want to. And this streamlines, and Jennifer makes your job a lot easier, which I'm happy to see.
Yeah, I should be clear. We have not updated the software yet. This is the first step in hopefully setting the stage to get to that point. But we needed to kind of take these steps first and get our ordinance up to speed before we can, move forward with proposing anything else.
And it needs to be done because of the manually processing all those payments is really time consuming, and mistakes happen. Honest mistakes, I mean, nothing serious, but just, again, more time consuming for you and for the homeowner. So.
Any other questions? Motions.
All right, Mr. Mayor, I'll move for first reading by title only of ordinance 1447-20.
Second.
Is it 1448-20?
I have 1447. Oh, yep, you're right. Sorry. I jumped ahead or behind, one of those. Yeah. So motion for first reading by title only of ordinance 1448-20.
Okay.
I have a motion and second for first reading of ordinance number 1448-20 by title only. Councilor Pratt.
Aye.
Councilor Brooks.
Aye.
Councilor Morrison.
Yes.
Councilor Reyes.
Yes.
Councilor Kellogg.
Aye.
Council President Grimes.
Aye.
And I vote aye also.
Ordinance number 1448-20, an ordinance relating to alarm systems, amending Tualatin Municipal Code Chapter 6-6 and creating new provisions.
Mr. Mayor, motion for reading by title only of ordinance 1448-20.
Second.
I have a motion second for second reading of ordinance number 1448-20. Councilor, things shifted again. Councilor Pratt.
Aye.
Councilor Brooks.
Aye.
Councilor Morrison,
Yes.
Councilor Reyes,
Yes.
Councilor Kellogg,
Aye.
Council President Grimes.
Aye.
I vote aye also.
Ordinance number 1448-20, an ordinance relating to alarm systems, amending Tualatin Municipal Code Chapter 6-6 and creating new provisions.
All right, Mr. Mayor, I move to adopt ordinance 1448-20.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to adopt ordinance number 1448-20. Councilor Pratt,
Aye.
Councilor Brooks,
Aye.
Councilor Morrison,
Yes.
Councilor Reyes,
Yes.
Councilor Kellogg,
Aye.
Council President Brooks, Council President Grimes.
Aye.
I vote aye also. It's unanimous. It passes. All right.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks, Jennifer. Thanks, Chief.
Thank you.
Moving on to item number 2, consideration of ordinance number 1449-20, relating to the initiative process and amending Tualatin Municipal Code Chapter 1-24.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. Sean Brady, City Attorney. As you may recall, back in October 26th meeting, the council had requested that staff bring back an ordinance for consideration to add the ability to place an initiative on the ballot at a primary election. Currently, the code only allows it at a statewide general election. So what this will do, if you adopt ordinance number 1449-20, is allow an initiative to be placed on the ballot at both a primary election in May as well as the general election in November of even numbered years.
All right. Council discussion or questions for Sean? Pretty quiet. I'll entertain motions too if there's no questions.
All right, Mr. Mayor, I'll move for first reading by title only of ordinance 1449-20.
Second.
I have a motion and second for first reading by title only of ordinance number 1449-20. Councilor Pratt,
Aye.
Councilor Brooks,
Aye.
Councilor Morrison,
Yes.
Councilor Reyes,
Yes.
Councilor Kellogg,
Aye.
Council President Grimes.
Aye.
I vote aye also.
All right, Mr. Mayor, I'll move for second reading by title only of ordinance 1449-20.
He has to read it first.
Oh, pardon me. Go ahead. I'm jumping ahead.
No worries. Ordinance number 1449-20, an ordinance relating to the initiative process and amending Tualatin Municipal Code Chapter 1-24.
Now, I think is the appropriate time to move for second reading by title only of ordinance 1449-20.
Second.
Motion second for second reading of ordinance number 1449-20. Councilor Pratt,
Aye.
Councilor Brooks,
Aye.
Councilor Morrison,
Yes.
Councilor Reyes,
Yes.
Councilor Kellogg,
Aye.
Council President Grimes.
Aye.
I vote aye also.
Thank you, Mayor. Ordinance number 1449-20, an ordinance relating to the initiative process and amending Tualatin Municipal Code Chapter 1-24.
All right, Mr. Mayor, I move to adopt ordinance 1449-20.
Second.
I have a motion and second to adopt ordinance number 1449-20. Councilor Pratt,
Aye.
Councilor Brooks,
Aye.
Councilor Morrison,
No.
Councilor Reyes,
Yes.
Councilor Kellogg,
Aye.
Council President Grimes.
Aye. Aye.
I vote aye, so I have that as 6-1 in favor. The ordinance is passed.
So
Next up,
So just to back up, I'm sorry, because this was the first time the ordinance was placed on the council, it'll have to come back for third reading
that's right. Sorry,
and adoption at the next meeting. So we'll bring that back at the next meeting.
you are correct. All right, item number 3, consideration of ordinance number 1447-20, establishing a parks utility and creating Tualatin Municipal Codes Chapter 3-7. Is this Rich and Ross?
Yes, greetings, Mayor and councilors. Thank you. At the October 26th City Council meeting, you had directed staff to return with an ordinance for consideration to create a parks utility. And so we are coming back tonight with that for your consideration and have a short presentation that I will go ahead and share the screen. Okay, in the conversations we've had in the past about a parks utility fee and a parks funding mechanism dedicated for those improvements, maintenance items, those assets within the system, those amenities within our park system that are at the end of their useful life or in need of investment to continue serving our community members. Tonight we bring you this ordinance. Really tonight the ordinance is authorizes the creation of the parks utility. We would then is not included in that obviously is a fee, is what that rate is or should be. So this is really a two-step process. Tonight is simply that the authorization of that parks utility separate from the fee action which would come in a later date through resolution. So these are the past meetings where we've discussed the need, and where on October 26th, you asked to bring back this ordinance and then consideration of a fee between $2 and $5. So what we're looking for tonight as well is some direction from you, council, for that range. Within that range, what is the resolution we should bring back at a future council meeting to consider setting a fee for this parks utility? So just some quick examples. You have seen many of these before, some different amenities and assets throughout our park system. These are the types of improvements that we need to make or will make with such a utility fee. Irrigation improvements, site planning, court surface resurfacing, park benches, park signs, pathways, renovation of playgrounds, so on and so forth. Smaller scale actions and projects throughout our park system, and contributing to some of the larger projects throughout our park system as well. So just a few examples from around the state of where this type of mechanism is being used and sort of the amount that it's generated annually through a parks utility fee. All of these cities use a parks utility fee as well. This is an example of an average residential monthly utility bill. And you can see at the lower part of this, thank you, Don Hudson, for putting this together tonight. This shows you with a parks utility for a single family residence at $2, how that fits in and what that looks like to an average residential utility customer in the city. So that's at the $2 rate. And so here are the here's the sort of the range, the 2 to 5 range, and what that would do on an annual basis in terms of revenue to pay for a dedicated source to pay for those improvements in deferred maintenance throughout the park system. At $2, it would generate around $270,000. At $3, it would generate around $405,000. At $4, it would generate about $541,000. And at $5, it would generate about $676,000 annually. And so included in your packet is the ordinance for consideration. And then we are looking for direction as we come back to you, City Council, and at a future meeting to discuss and set a fee for this parks utility. And so wanted to answer any questions, provide any further information that you might have.
Questions for Ross? It's never this quiet. All right, Paul.
Yeah, I'm just not really a question for us. It's more of just a statement, and I'm going to say it again, that the amount of money we're going to raise by imposing upon the citizens of Tualatin a higher utility bill at a point in time when we're already pausing on water rates and looking to do a shock and awe down the road when we finally have to put the water rates bill in there. And this goes from a strong belief that if we put on the May ballot an operating levy, we would raise at 50 cents per assessed thousand, we would raise approximately, I forget the number now, if my memory serves me correct, Ross and Don, you can correct me, it was around, I think it was $5 or $6 million on a 5-year operating levy, which would actually allow us to make some repairs. We're not raising enough money to do anything significant with this, and we are just putting additional hardship on, in particular, everybody at a point in time where we just don't need that without, and I feel strongly, without an authorization from the voters that this is what they want.
All right. Other questions, comments? Remember to keep, there's two lines of thought here, is questions about the ordinance itself and then the rate structure. So they're not one and the same. Just want to remind folks. Councilor Reyes.
Thank you, Mayor. I think that I understand what Councilor Morrison is saying, but I thought I don't know, when we had that survey done, I think I want to respect that, because we did take time to call on people and find out whether this would be a good thing. Just wanted to remind the council that we did have a survey done. We did get feedback from the community, and that I mean, the community spoke, and we also need to remember that they were not in favor at this point. I mean, it was pretty, this is pre-COVID too, so I think that with this whole situation, things might be a little bit more, I don't know, people are sensitive about another fee and all that. So I'm thinking about, I don't know, about having the fees to the water now because of this whole situation, plus the city, I mean, the community were not in favor of having any fees raised right now for the parks. Just thought I'll bring that up because I do remember that survey. That's just my comment. Thank you.
Point out they were not in favor of a levy.
Right. Sorry. Yes.
This is not a levy. Yeah. Right. Other questions, comments? Councilor Pratt, then Councilor Brooks.
Yeah, I wanted to point out that too, that and that's where I kind of differ, that I do agree that we're not talking about the what this fee will cover, but it wouldn't be as much as a bond or levy. But as Councilor Reyes said, right now, or from the most recent survey, it doesn't look like the voters are up for a bond or levy. I consider these, we have park assets, I mean, there's so many park assets we can't use or that I think are becoming a danger. Like in this little Nature Woodrose Park, I walked through there a few months ago and there's a bench with rebar sticking up. And I mean, we have a responsibility in my mind to take care of these assets, and a bond or levy would be great to make these big improvements in the future. But we really need to consider like doing the best we can to take care of what we have, and we don't have enough now. So this isn't a full solution, but it's a start. And I guess my question to Ross is you'll come back if we want to talk about this again in December, then do we have the option to decide because of the COVID when these fees would start being implemented?
Yes, Councilor Pratt, thank you. Yes, so tonight's ordinance under consideration is purely to create the mechanism. It does not institute a fee tonight at all. And so at some later date, be it the mid-December meeting, or a later date, you could begin a fee when you deemed appropriate.
And you could also, I mean, kind of to Councilor Pratt's question, you could also adopt a resolution with a fee, but make it effective at some future date.
Oh,
So, like,
thank you. Yeah, because I strongly feel we need to have this, and we are representative government here. I just want to remind everybody, and that any levy or bond, that is something, and those are a lot larger dollar amounts, and those are things that I do think, you know, like I feel like this is just minimally holding the strings together in our parks, and if we want improvements or bigger things fixed, that's when we go out for that bond or levy in the future.
Just want to tag onto that thought that Shalom just mentioned and Councilor Pratt was asking about. You kind of look at what Washington County Commissioners did, that you say you're going to set a rate increase in X date in the future, put that in a resolution, then you always just can change the resolution. If timing still stinks, you just rescind the date that's in that resolution and adopt a new one. So we can always move the target, if you will, if things aren't well in the economy at the point we think it might be okay, just like the commissioners are doing at Clean Water Services. Councilor Brooks.
Thank you. I have questions kind of going the other direction on that as well. The first question I have is, can you remind us of how many items are on the level 4 in need of, that are just completely shot?
Yeah, so we have 42% of the assets in amenities throughout our park system are ranked either a 4 or a 5. And those are the items that we would like to either replace or renovate within the next 3 years. Those are items that if we do not take action soon, we will need to close those amenities or remove them from our park system.
Okay, so this is where I see this differently than the Clean Water Services conversation, because when we looked at Basalt Creek and those needs, they're not the same pressing needs. I have similar concerns as Councilor Pratt as far as safety and well-being, and also the idea of representative government. I'll say that so many of the people that I talk to, especially in COVID times, are spending more time in our parks, are spending more time on the trails. It's a place where people are finding wellness and where they don't want to see kids at risk, community members at risk, old people at risk, people with disabilities at risk, that whole equity lens that I think is really important. I have a yard. Some of my neighbors don't have their own yards. I think it's really important to remember the people that are impacted by having a public asset of parks. And like I've said before, anytime I've done interviews for committee members on any committee, it doesn't matter if it's the budget committee or the arts committee, people, one of the top #1 assets that they talk about are the parks, before schools, before other parts of our city. So I just want to talk about, you know, what I have made a commitment to as a counselor and to that. That being said, I understand that there's difficult times with COVID, and I'm curious if we did a fee, and just like we've had forgiveness of some fees for some members of our community, could we go on it instead of delaying and having further asset management problems? You know, like when I do appraising for houses, this is the way that you reduce the value of your entire city, is by you know, neglect of assets is what I want to say. And so my question kind of goes the other way. Instead of delaying time, is there a way that we could do forgiveness for those community members most in need? Thanks.
Yeah, if I can answer a couple areas of, I think, relief. One, and if Don's on the call, he can speak specifically, but Washington County's utility relief program is certainly one of those potential avenues. And Don, if you want to chime in any specifics on that, that is available to all of our community members that are utility payers.
Yeah, but I think the program you're talking about right now is the CARES Act related one, which will be done by the end of December. So even before this would ever kick in.
Thanks, Tom.
So yeah, so it would be if there was a renewal, which I just can't imagine that we're not going to have more. So that's what I'm considering when I'm thinking about how to manage what people are dealing with right now. And then finally, you know, with, well, the mechanism part is the mechanism part. And then I prefer to have the fee conversation in the future instead of making this decision tonight on fees.
Okay. Other questions or comments?
I have a comment.
Sure. Go
So,
ahead.
I want to begin by apologizing to Ross and Rich. I know you guys have worked so very hard on this, and I do not deny the need for maintenance of park assets and at some point a levy to do the big lift. My concern is a philosophical one with imposing a blanket fee across all utility users, regardless of whether or not they use the parks. And I want to use as an example the alarm permit tonight. We're going to be charging those people a fee who take advantage of having an alarm. And I don't have any problem with that whatsoever. But if there are people who are going to be charged this fee on their utility bill, whether or not they use the parks, I don't see that as very democratic. And I would encourage, to the extent that this proposal doesn't pass tonight, that there be some sort of broader survey than what was done with the parks plan, maybe an advisory question on the ballot about whether or not you support this. And if there is a majority for it, then I think that's a great indication that yes, go ahead and impose the fee. And I look at the road utility fee and the street tree fee that are already on people's utility bills. And if I would have been on council at that point in time, I would have had the same objection to them. And my concern is that, how did we get here in terms of being this far backlogged in the maintenance of our park assets? And at the same time, we're talking about adding more assets to our parks. So over time, this $3 or $4 is going to become 6, 7, 8, 10, 12, or I think it was West Lynn that had $16.50 a month on their utility bill. And so before we go to that scope of fee to people, I think that we would have to reach out democratically and say, do you indeed support that? And again, I want to express, I do not deny the need for it. I mean, the documentation that you provided, Ross, about what needs to be done, the 4s and the 5s, and the amount of dollars that's going to take. Obviously, this maintenance fee isn't going to touch it. It's going to make a small dent. But what we really need is a levy for a limited period of time to say we've got to bring our dilapidated assets up to spec, and at the same time develop a plan to pay for them going forward. So, again, I don't deny the need. I just philosophically do not agree with the method.
Where I would differ with you, Councilor Kellogg, is a lot of people pay for public schools who have no kids in public school. There's a lot of people who are paying the library levy who've never set forth in the library. It's just part of that, just democracy, as was said before. We all share the burden of the city and providing city services. Councilor
and I would say the only distinction with respect to the library levy is it was on the ballot.
Yeah. A considerable more dollar amount. Councilor Pratt.
Yeah, I just, I understand the argument, but I would respectfully disagree because everybody that, every homeowner, first of all, is getting the advantage of a higher value on their home because we have such a great park system in existence. And everybody that lives here, I mean, I can't remember all the things, but there are so many benefits for having green spaces, for our livability, for the air we breathe, for everybody in our community benefits. So I have to disagree that, I mean, just because some of us walk in, enjoy the parks more than others, but having the parks here and just what it does for our environment and for visionary and the livability here, it is a value to everybody.
Councilor Brooks.
And I just want to concur, respectfully disagree, Counselor Kellogg, and just coming from like an appraisal situation, if you have a house and you don't use your fireplace, it still impacts the value of the house. If the fireplace is left to deteriorate, it impacts the value of the entire house, not just those people who use the fireplace. And I think a very similar systems-based approach applies to a city, our assets and our worth and value. And to add on to what Councilor Pratt already said about everyone shares in the benefit of the increase.
All right. Councilor Reyes.
The way I see it is that I think at one point I was very motivated to get get the parks ready and all that, and have, let's charge fees, or let's consider a levy or a bond. But I think in the last, since the last 6 months or so, I don't think I agree anymore, because although I do hear people say, well, yeah, we use the parks and we love the parks, I literally walk around here and especially my park, Lefty Park, no one's there. And no one's there. There's probably the lawn that's being used by a couple of people that go and throw the ball with their dogs. But other than that, and I'm here all day, so I get to walk there and come back. I don't see anyone using the basketball court, obviously. I don't see anyone using the kiddie play area, the kiddos area. And I just feel like to do that right now during this time that no one's using it because of this whole situation, it just makes me a little bit uneasy now. I did at one point, I was like, if you would have asked me last year around this time, I'm like, let's go, let's move forward and let's get everybody on this. But it's just lately, I feel like, I don't know, I just don't feel like it's the right, it's just, I don't see anyone. And I've driven around here in town. I have gone, I'm in the process of doing some work on my yard, because I can't use a lot of the things that are happening right now. So I feel like getting a fee in right now, it just doesn't make sense to me, as far as because of the whole, I guess I'm very sensitive with the whole COVID thing, that I feel like right now I don't feel people are using, when I go to Tualatin Park, the one by the Commons, by the Juanita Pole, I see people walking, but I don't see anyone like using the actual stuff that we're looking for. Like, for instance, that we want to repair right now. And if we are going to repair those, maybe start with the areas that are most likely that are being used, or people are taking it, so they can feel like, okay, I'm using this park right now, I'm walking, and this sidewalk needs to be fixed or something like that. But if we're like fixing basketball courts or kids' yard or kids' stuff, kids' play area, I feel like because no one's using it, I don't know, I just feel a little bit different now that that we're not using them. I'm not utilizing them, and I walk around here, and if you go to any park, I was at Afalati's twice this week, no one's there, no one. There's some people walking their dogs, maybe on the sidewalk, but not at in the park playing or utilizing the park at all. And so I'm just saying what I've seen personally and how I feel today.
Just 2 points I'm going to make. One is a lot of the equipment in the parks are not allowed to be used at this point because of COVID-19. You're not allowed to use them.
I know.
So you're not going to see kids on play structures and stuff right now because they're not allowed to be on them.
They weren't before, and I was going to do it. You know what I mean? They weren't, especially Lefty. they weren't a lot of kids or people playing basketball there, but I was still gonna support it. I was gonna go for it.
Okay. And
Yeah.
I'll just point out, I'm over here by Jurgens Park. It's full all the time. There's people playing tennis, they're playing pickleball, the baseball diamonds, people are playing in the grass. They're at the riverfront on the boat launch. So I guess it depends on which park you're at. But Councilor Grimes, Council President Grimes.
Nancy, it's fine. Thank you. No, I agree with what the mayor is saying. Not only do I feel like every green space within, I don't know how many miles of where we live is busy and full of people up to what regulations allow. And I can understand what Councilor Reyes is saying about, you know, the play structures might seem a little empty lately, but, you know, that's part of the regulation of them not being able to be used. And we have a small community track that's attached to the school behind our house. And it is full 7 days a week, every daylight hour. And I think right now, you know, with COVID and with the economic crisis, there's a lot of things that are off the table for people that live in our community. And a few of the things that remain viable and on the table for everyone who lives here is outdoor exercise, which is free and accessible to everyone, and parts of our community parks, which are accessible to everyone. And if you use discretion and use social distancing, they're safe during this COVID time. So, I mean, I think of any time in recent history, I think the importance of parks and open spaces and green spaces right now to the health and mental well-being of our community is absolutely essential. And I know different areas get used at different levels, but I can't think of a time when we needed these areas more, and we need them in safe working order. And I support us getting these things back into safe working order through a series of funding opportunities. But I think that this is a good step towards the process to begin raising some very, very well needed funds.
Just as a reminder for folks, the ordinance doesn't start collecting fees. This just authorizes the collection of fees. As one council, I forget, I'm sorry, you know, we might defer this conversation of the fee until next year, the new city council. Doesn't have to be decided today. We don't have to set a fee today. All that's on the agenda today is to establish the ordinance to allow for one. So I thought I saw Councilor Brooks and Councilor Reyes' hands up.
I just, with
Yeah,
the council's permission,
Nancy was going, like, Nancy.
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought you called on me, sorry.
No, I apologize. Yes, I understand that we're just talking about the opportunity to set up a park utility at this point, but I just wanted to reiterate how important I think that the parks and the green spaces are right now, and to everyone's health and well-being, and the egalitarian part of parks and open spaces is what I think is important also right now with what's going on. So yes, I understand that we're not adding any type of a fee tonight in this discussion. So thanks.
Okay, Bridget, then Maria.
I was wanting to ask the council's permission to just move to, is it first reading only?
Let's have before that, if Councilor Reyes wants to throw something in before you make the
Oh,
motion.
okay, sorry.
I guess what my point is also that if we are not going to make, I mean, like I said, the ordinances for today and the fees, I'm just saying that if this continues until next year around this time, there's going to be a year that went by and people will not be using some of the things that we want to fix. at the park. I'm just, that's just my thing is that do we and I'm glad you clarified this, Mayor, that we don't have to set a fee until maybe next year and see what happens. Maybe we're still in the same situation we are right now. And it's just gonna be another year. And I understand the walking, I understand looking at them, but if you can utilize any of that stuff, you're just walking and looking at these things. So looking at the basketball courts or all that stuff. So I'm just saying that if we are, I'm just not in I guess today I don't feel like I should move forward with, I don't know, just, I'm glad you clarified with the fees and all that, because I don't think there's a fee. Today I don't want to talk about fees, so maybe that's the thing. So thank you for clarifying that.
All right. Now back to Bridget.
All right, well, and I just, Councilor Reyes, just to something else too, just to keep in mind, since one of the safest activities right now is walking, some of the things I remember that were on the list of getting fixed was a walking bridge that's broken down, was uneven pavement that people can trip on. I've had people reach out to me around unsafe walking when they walk every day. So there are people that are reaching out and asking about improvements to the park. So I just wanted to just be clear, but I do want to ask the council's permission to, what is it? First title, what am I?
To move for first reading by title only.
Thank you. To move for a first reading by title only of consideration of ordinance number 1444720, establishing a parks utility and creating Tualatin Municipal Code Chapter 3 through 7.
By title only.
By title only. Thank you.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second for reading by title only of ordinance number 1447-20, establishing a parks utility and creating a Tualatin Municipal Code Chapter 3-7. Councilor Pratt.
Point of order, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to have discussion on the motion.
Go ahead.
So I appreciate everybody's input. And again, I don't doubt that the parks are going to come back in capacity. I don't doubt the value of the parks to local real estate and to people's enjoyment and the value overall of our city. What I'm questioning is the mechanism by which we're doing it, and particularly in the context of the order of operations. No one here disputes that we need a whole lot of money to get our park system up to par. And my preference would be that we go out for a levy to make that big lift. And that's not going to be tomorrow, given the economic circumstances. But unlike the citizens that we just talked about in their initiative rights, the council has the right to put an initiative on the ballot at any election, special, primary, general, even, odd years, whenever we want to do that. And I just think, from my perspective, that it's would be so much better to have the entire city vote on this than to rely on a survey, albeit a very well done and thorough survey, so that we have an indication of what the feeling is out there. And if a bond gets passed, then there is clear indication that there is a desire for improvement of the parks. And if the bond doesn't do everything that we want it to do, or the levy, then the maintenance fee would make sense and we would have public support for that. But I think by going straight to the utility fee, I think there are going to be people out there who feel that it was imposed on them without their choice. And so I just want to make that point clear for everyone. Thank you.
Councilor Morrison.
Yeah, and I want to comment on the survey that was done. When we did the Parks Master Plan, we had tremendous support. The survey was really, if I remember correctly, and I didn't go back and look, and I don't know, maybe Sherilyn might remember, the survey asked a lot of questions. And one of the things we learned about the transportation bond was be very, very focused. And the survey wasn't focused. It talked about trails, it talks about new construction, it talked about repairing things. And because of the feedback we got from the master plan when that was being put together, that's why I said earlier tonight, I'm strongly convinced a operating levy would pass, and it would pass, I believe, overwhelmingly, because the citizens of Tualatin love their parks, and I think everybody can see that that some repairs and some things need to be done. As Councilor Kellogg said, nobody's denying that we need to make the repairs. What we're arguing about is how to do it. And I still believe that if this council put forth the same energy that we put forth in 2018 for the moving forward, that we will have success, and then we'll have some funds available to make some of the major repairs that need to be made, along with just some of the garden variety maintenance that will allow the city staff to show that they're administering the funds correctly, they're making progress and some quick results, much like with Tualatin moving forward. If you notice, we still are just getting started on garden corners. That was a huge project. We haven't started on widening the road at Martin Arzi. We haven't started the traffic light at Saggart yet, because those are huge undertakings. It's going to take a lot of time, but we can show a lot of progress on a lot of different areas. And I think with this park operating levy, and as Councilor Kellogg said, we can put it on any ballot. I would put it on the May ballot to give us enough time to really promote it. You could raise enough money to really show some quick progress. And then when COVID-19 ends, when we have a vaccine, when people flood back to the parks, which they will do, we know they will all come back to the parks. Our parks will be ready for them, because they're not ready for them right now. And just like the school district investing a lot of time and money and being ready for the students to return, our city could be investing a lot of time and money to be prepared for when our residents return to the parks.
Yes, Paul. Councilor Reyes and Councilor Brooks.
Yeah, I can support what Councilor Kellogg said. I probably will get on board on a something that's much more impactful, because you will be able to collect more if I think like on the bond or levy or something that's big, and kind of like the transportation bond. I can support something like that. I can stand behind that, and I can see that being more effective. And I think, like I said, my whole mind has changed. This whole thing has changed everything, and I can support something that will be much more impactful for us, and use the funds that will create just make all the repairs that we need, and above and beyond that. So, and I do, now that Councilor Morrison mentioned it, they did mention it was the focus. Like, they were really confused about it. So the survey did come back, not so much that they were in support of just the fee on water utility bill, but also that there was a focus there, that they were not, we weren't really focused on something specific. So I think maybe, and I'm just listening as everyone speak right now, maybe come back with something bigger, and people get on board and join us and vote, and just let the citizens decide.
Okay. Councilor Brooks.
I just like to call the question to end debate.
Okay. Thank you. All right. So we'll start voting. Councilor Pratt.
I think that needs a second.
Okay. So do I have it? Is there a second? Yeah, okay. It's motioned and seconded. So we need to vote on that, Sean?
Yes, so this is just first reading by title only. So that was motioned and seconded.
Okay.
All right. Point of order, Mr. Mayor, can I query our council real quick? Sean, what's the effect of voting no on the first reading? Does it come back at the next meeting just as a motion to adopt?
It does not. So if you vote no on first reading, that means that I will read the entire ordinance.
You have to wait till the third.
So what you're doing, so this is just a motion, so I don't have to read the entire ordinance.
Right. And so if that motion is defeated, and I'm not saying it will be, but if it is, then there has to be another motion to read the entire ordinance, right?
So any counselor can request that at any point in time that the ordinance be read in its entirety. So that doesn't require a vote at all. So that just requires that one person request it.
I don't think anybody wants that. Go ahead, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, that was the problem we had at the last meeting, Robert.
So we don't have to vote on the call to question, since it was Motion and seconded. Now we can now vote.
That's right. So motion and seconded on the
First
question
reading.
before the council is just first reading. Yep,
All
you
right.
haven't gotten to the ordinance yet.
Right. Counselor Pratt,
Aye.
Counselor Kellogg,
Aye.
Counselor Brooks,
Aye.
Counselor Morrison,
Yes.
Counselor Reyes,
Yes.
Council President Grimes.
Aye.
I vote aye also.
Thank you, Mayor. Ordinance number 1447-20, an ordinance establishing a parks utility and creating Tualatin Municipal Code Chapter 3-7.
I'll make a motion for second reading by title only.
Second.
I have a motion and a second for title only of ordinance number 1447-20. Any discussion on this motion? Seeing none, Counselor Pratt,
Aye.
Counselor Kellogg,
Aye.
Counselor Brooks,
Aye.
Counselor Morrison,
Yes.
Counselor Reyes,
Yes.
Council President Grimes,
Aye.
and the mayor votes aye also.
Thank you, Mayor. Ordinance number 1447-20, an ordinance establishing a parks utility and creating Tualatin Municipal Code Chapter 3-7.
All right.
I'll make a motion for the approval of ordinance number 1447-20.
Second.
I have a motion and a second for approval of ordinance number 1447-20. Any discussion? Counselor Pratt,
Aye.
Counselor Kellogg,
Nay.
Counselor Brooks,
Aye.
Counselor Morrison,
No.
Counselor Reyes,
No.
Counselor President Grimes.
Aye.
I vote aye also, so it is 4-3. If I'm do my math right, so we'll have to come back for third reading.
So quick question. So I did hear all of the discussion. Thank you. And so am I hearing that you do not want to have a further discussion about the amount of the fee that we could then bring forward a resolution in December, that you want to wait to talk about what that amount would be?
That's the impression I have.
Mhm.
The correct impression. Head nods. Yep. All right. So moving on, item number 4, consideration of ordinance number 1445-20 relating to cannabis regulations, amending Tualatin Development Code Chapter 80 and making minor amendments to other Tualatin Development Code chapters. As you recall, we did first and second reading. There was not a unanimous vote to pass the ordinance after the second reading. So for tonight, just like we're gonna have to do next week, we'll have to do a third reading motion, and then if that is approved, then it's just a unanimous vote to pass this ordinance. So at this point, I'll just open the table up for any further discussion or motions of ordinance number 1445-20.
Sorry.
All right. Any discussion? Any motions? Councilor Brooks.
I just wanted to say that I know that there's a lot of feelings around this issue, that it's a polarizing issue, and I wanted to be really clear about my position on this. Here we are with the dog again, sorry. I look at this, we're looking at a land use decision, much like when we have a gun club, we're not taking responsibility for people's right to have guns and how they use them. That's those kinds of rights. From the information that I've looked at, I've seen much more evidence that the concern about kids, I've shared concern about kids addiction. I've worked in the addiction field for many, many years. I also believe in evidence-based work. I've not seen the evidence. I've actually seen the evidence that there's less street dealing and less access. I also want to talk about people's use and stigmatizing people. A lot of people that use for medical are veterans, people that deal with PTSD, chronic pain, and anxiety. Those people in our state have made a voice. We've seen passages across the country as well as in our area. And the other piece for me, that there's been a lot of confusing conversation around location. We will have a very small area and a very limited amount of retailers. And I think there was one more point that I had, but it's getting late. So I just do want to say that I understand people's concerns. I want to be really clear that because there was a lot of maps that it's not going to be in our central downtown area. It's not near schools. And those concerns I share. And I also think that the economic input for this industry, tops is over the economic input in the entire coal industry, which I found fascinating. It's business operation at this point in our state. And now the tax money that I think we got a note from Don that $25,000 from those taxes, from those operations now go to treatment of addictions through the last election cycle bond that passed. And I do want to say, because of that, there is an issue with the state around access to treatment, which I'm very, very familiar with, and want to remind people that we rank 49th in the country on access to behavioral health treatment for addiction. So for those reasons, we'll have an opportunity to even contribute more to that solution. And those are the reasons why I support this measure. And I want to be just very, very clear on that. Thank you.
Okay. Councilor Pratt.
Well, Bridget said almost everything I was going to say, but I just want to remind people that I am sure that nobody on this council wants to help the addiction of children, and that these stores are for people over 21. I've read for endless hours about this, and I can see no evidence that this increases crime or the use by children of this substance. Also, like Bridget said, you know, we intentionally kept this out of our downtown core. The map, it's a very small area still that we're allowing this in. And there are problems with addiction in our community and in our country. And this actually, with the passage of ballot measure 110, some of this money will actually go to create addiction centers. So that's all I have right now.
Okay. Council President Grimes.
Thanks. I just want to reiterate, I guess, my position on this. I'm still very disappointed that we weren't able as a council to come together and craft some sort of a revised map that would allow not only more business opportunities for the cannabis industry, but would also take into account what the Planning Commission feedback was for us, as well as what the community input was. I think we need to remember that we doubled, almost tripled the area in the industrial area where cannabis operations can site. We also opened up areas on the east side of I-5 where Burger King and Stars and those sorts of areas are. We also opened a rather large area on the west side of I-5, which is the entire Bridgeport shopping area and adjacent areas. So we did, in fact, make a large adjustment to our siting map and opened up a lot of areas. And I also want to make very clear that my concern all along, this has not been a referendum on cannabis, the use of cannabis, whether or not it's been legalized. Obviously, that's been all settled. My concern all along is doing what we were mandated, which is the time, place, and manner of operations, and the other piece of that to me, which is community standards. And that's always been the piece that I've put very high in my list of priorities. And I still think as a council, we could still try to come to agreements to make some sort of accommodations and take into account, you know, some of the feedback we've received. I mean, I would be very open to working with any council member that would want to have a discussion about the west side of I-5, the Bridgeport Village area and the adjacent area, possibly amending the map and removing that one section from an open area where we would allow a cannabis business to site. But yeah, I just wanted to make sure that I'm very clear that this is, to me, this is not any kind of a referendum on the legal use of cannabis as has been decided by the voters. This was more walking through what we were asked to do by the voters, which is the time, place, and manner, and also the community standards, and taking into account community input and the Planning Commission, which I feel like we really sort of fell short on that particular area. But I appreciate everyone's research and their knowledge and their willingness to talk this through. I appreciate that. And that's what I appreciate about my fellow counselors. So thank you for letting me share.
Councilor Morrison.
Yeah, I just want to make clear on one thing. If actually two things. Number one, the evidence is overwhelming. If the more accessible it is, the higher the teen use. Here in Tualatin, they do a survey biannually, and the numbers after marijuana was approved in the state of Oregon almost doubled of teen use. And the same has been said for Washington and Colorado. One of the problems, to be honest with you, is the only two states where we really have a lot of data is Colorado, which was the first in the nation, and then Seattle, Washington, state of Washington, which has now been around for a couple of years. And the data there is really discouraging to what it's doing to teen use. And as Council President Nancy said, I'm not against marijuana. I really, if you're 21 and you want to use it, but what I am against is accessibility, easy accessibility. And easy accessibility becomes easy accessibility to the kids. And that's what studies show time and time again. And as Nancy said, I'm not opposed to working with any counselor to find a solution to allowing Western Oregon Dispensary to be here in Tualatin, if that's what they want. But I'm extremely disappointed that they're not good stewards, that they're not good citizens of our community. I would prefer to see them, along with all medical dispensaries, retail outlets in an industrial area, which has been identified by multiple sources now as a best practice for a variety of reasons. And one of them is accessibility to the youth. And I'm tired of talking about it. And as one other counselor already said, it's getting late. So I'm done. Thank you.
Councilor Brooks.
With the council's permission, I make a motion for third reading of ordinance number 14450 or 520 TDC chapter 80 cannabis.
By title only.
By title only.
Second.
I have a motion and second for third reading of ordinance number 1445, and hopefully I have an extra one in there, -20. Councilor Pratt.
Aye.
Councilor Kellogg.
Aye.
Councilor Brooks.
Aye.
Councilor Morrison,
Yes.
Councilor Reyes,
Yes.
Councilor President Grimes. This is for third
I
reading.
don't want to make someone,
Yeah, this is third
Okay,
reading
this is-
only.
all right, then I'll vote aye.
Yeah. And I vote aye.
Thank you. Ordinance number 1445-20, an ordinance relating to cannabis regulations, amending Tualatin Development Code Chapter 80, and making minor amendments to other Tualatin Development Code chapters.
Mayor, motion to adopt ordinance 1445-20.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to adopt ordinance number 1445-20. Councilor Pratt,
Aye.
Councilor Kellogg,
Aye.
Councilor Brooks,
Aye.
Councilor Morrison,
No.
Councilor Reyes,
Yes.
Council President Grimes,
No.
and I vote aye. So it passes 5-2. All right. Any further council communications for this evening? We had our communications earlier in work session. Councilor Brooks.
I just had an update because I had a second page. But I just want to say that earlier today, I attended the governor's staff meeting hosted by the Oregon League of Cities to give updates on the freeze and present draft changes, shifting criteria from stages to threat levels. This promises to decouple our county, but no changes are official yet. And I just want to remind people that we are in the middle of a surge. To get to any kind of positive outcomes on this, we have to be safe in the meantime and help flatten the curve. And I also want to say that I was proud to support our mayor's position on the shuttle program, although it was only written testimony because I had another meeting, but I'm hopeful that we get more access, especially to human services, the hospital, et cetera, in our city. Thank you.
Councilor Kellogg.
Yeah, I'm going to save the sentimentalities for our meeting in December. But in the spirit of the season, I want to be thankful for the way this council works together. There is respectful disagreement on important issues, but I think we've done a great job over the last 2 years of really addressing important issues and debating them fairly and making good progress for the residents of this city. So I'm thankful to serve with all of you. And again, I hope you all have a happy Thanksgiving.
Anything else? I think on behalf of all the city council in Tualatin, we wish all residents a very happy Thanksgiving. Please be safe. Keep your festivities small. As Paul said, just immediate family. And I like his idea of the bring your own dish, but bring it to my front yard idea. And we'll do a swap there. Please, and I know this is going to be a political statement, please do not be like our Clackamas County Chair-elect and have a big party and further the spread of COVID. With that, do I have a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye with their hands up.
Aye.
Aye.
Good evening, everybody. Have a terrific Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving, everybody.